Hey, what's up, y'all? I'm Zach Jones. I'm from Baltimore. Okay, so we're gonna jump straight in it because the Stanley Cup Finals are on, so I'm gonna watch that. But before I get to that, I need to focus on this. So I'm gonna talk a little bit today about what I read, talking about ethnocentrism, assimilation, and meritocracy. All right, but before I talk about that, I'm gonna give you all a little explanation about why I said I was from Baltimore. Okay, so I grew up as a minority, if you already can't tell, in a dominant culture's world. And on the outskirts of Baltimore, you have dominant culture. So you have a lot of the wealthier white people, or any race, but its majority is white on the outskirts and suburbs of Baltimore. And then outside, you have people that have businesses in there. So they're traveling in the inner city. Now, automatically, when you talk to any of these people from the suburbs, as I have in my life and some of my schools actually, which is weird, but their views are that people within the inner city aren't going to get far because they're focused on themselves making quick money, not focused on education or getting involved in gangs, doing things that don't necessarily help you promote your own self. Well, that's not necessarily true. There's a lot of people that want to accomplish a lot but simply can't. And this book, I feel like, was written from a dominant culture's perspective. So there's one thing that, I did kind of agree with, and that's essentially why I just shared that little story about the outskirts of Baltimore. Some of my friends, it said members of oppressed groups are seen as inferior, and their hardships are blamed on their personal characteristics rather than societal constraints or discrimination. So I do kind of agree with that. The people who say that we're not going to get far, that we're inferior, blame it on, we're lazy or we're, getting involved in the wrong crowd and that kind of stuff. They blame it on that rather than actually, our discrimination. If you put me up versus a white guy, right here, in a job interview, most likely he's going to win, even if I clean cut and I wear a nice suit and all that kind of stuff. It's just how it is. It's just how life is. So there was some things that I did not agree with when I was reading this, and I'll talk to you about that before I talk about ethnocentrism and assimilation and meritocracy and all that kind of stuff. Some things that I didn't agree with is the dominant group characteristics as compared to the inferior groups. Okay, the dominant characteristics are things like individualism and freedoms. Okay, individualism saying everyone is their own self. And freedom saying not they didn't want to have people determine their values or their ideas or their goals. I think this is the same want for the inferior groups as to the superior groups. Okay, everybody wants to be themselves. Everybody wants freedom. Everybody wants the same things in life, essentially. We're human. It's just part of our wiring. It's who we are. So I don't agree with that. And I guess if I were to have one question, it would be, why did you say that those are the dominant group's characteristics when really, in reality, they apply to every group? Anyways, going to move on past that. I focused on today's reading about ethnocentrism. Okay, and it says people become closed off to other cultures and can often feel that their culture is superior. And not talking just about race, but America in general, I feel like a lot of us do have this perspective. I think getting involved with any culture is a great thing, and it's going to help you grow because you're going to see things, experience things, get to know things that you wouldn't learn within just your own culture. But if you are like a lot of American mindsets are that, we're a lot better off than everyone else. Which there are some countries we are a lot better off than. Having freedom of speech, being able to achieve our own goals rather than focusing on achieving our government's goals. There's just things that we have that other cultures don't have. But at the same time, it's important that we maintain that mindset that just because our culture is good, it's not the best culture. So in all honesty, I'm saying, have an open mind and don't close it off and don't think that your culture is better than everyone else's. I think that's the main point of the reading, is that you need to be open to these other cultures, and you can't just be a closed-minded person. Otherwise, you won't grow mentally, and you won't grow as a person in general. So that's ethnocentrism. I don't think that people will get far who have an ethnocentric view on life. But that's my own opinion. Okay, assimilation is where people work themselves into another culture, another people, and they get to know their culture and kind of adopt some of those characteristics as their own. All right. Now, while it's good for people to learn these new cultures, it's very important to remember who you are, like where you're from. I'm reminded that every single day when I go home, or I go to Virginia and meet up with my black family. I'm white and black, Polish and black. All right, and I go home with my Polish family. We have a cookout, Polish kielbasa, all that kind of stuff. My mom says, don't forget who you are. It's very important. Make sure that your culture and that our people and like your family, is at the top of your charts for, what defines you. And then also with my black family, they agree with the same thing. They're like, don't forget who you are. Don't forget your roots, where you come from. It's very important. So both sides, I carry these two different cultures with me at all times, in different aspects in life and different experiences. And so I bring these cultures to the table. But when meeting new cultures, say when I came here to Tennessee, like from the ghetto, it's a lot different. I brought with me my personality and my own views, but also began to learn other people's views. And, I began to grow as a person. I began to see that, Tennessee people aren't just a bunch of, rednecks or, people with straw hats drinking whiskey all the time. They're actually great people with great minds. Okay, so you can't just have this opinion of another people's, and when you come to assimilate into their culture, continue to have that mindset. You need to be open-minded, and accept their culture into your life and help it grow you as a person. All right, another thing I want to focus on that I liked in the reading, okay, is meritocracy, aka capitalism. All right, and that's where it talks about rising to the top, the influences competition, and talks about encouraging motivation and characteristics within yourself to want to achieve more and want to grow yourself more as a person. I like this idea, but that's because I was raised in a capitalist mindset. I think that it's good for our country. I think it's good for people in general. But at the same time, if you become enthralled in capitalism, okay, then you can think of yourself as superior than another person. And I think that's the fine line. So when it talked about meritocracy, yeah, I mean, a lot of those ideas are good, but you need to be very careful when you're living the capitalist lifestyle. Okay, you need to make sure that you are not like disregarding everyone else's ideas and thoughts and opinions just because you're trying to be better. Okay, so that's one thing. So talking about all those ideas, kind of tying them all together, basically what I would like to improve upon is the acceptance of other cultures and open-mindedness. All right, so if you have an ethnocentric view on life, if you are living the capitalist lifestyle and think of yourself as superior, if you're assimilating into another culture but think that your culture is way better than everyone else's culture that you're encountering, then you're not going to be open-minded and you're not going to be able to grow. And who knows, you might miss out on something very vital to life that you wouldn't understand without that culture coming into your life. Okay, so I think the acceptance of other cultures is very important. I think we need to improve upon that as a people. I also think that we will always be a capitalist culture here in America, but you still need to know where you stand. So I think it's very important to know that there is a capitalist culture and you can achieve what you want in life, but you need to know where you stand here on earth, right? You're placed here. You're given certain things. Some people are given a silver spoon. Some people are given nothing. I wasn't given anything. It was just me and my mom growing up in the ghetto. I know where I stood. But you have to know where you stand to be able to know where you need to go. You have to know where you're at in life to be able to know where you want to get. And what you need to accomplish in doing so. So if you're going to talk about a capitalist lifestyle and you're going to look towards trying to achieve the most you can for yourself, it's important to know what you need to overcome. So I think that's important to talk about in the classroom as well. So putting into practice, I'm going to help. First off, I would love to help out kids that don't necessarily have that silver spoon and don't have the opportunities that most people have, and give them as much opportunity as they can, grow their minds, grow their mindsets, and give them opportunities that, they're just not born with. I would love to do that because I'm from the inner city and I think it's important to be able to give back. I'm one of the few that got out. I'm the only one from my neighborhoods, and I'm one of like 30 in my graduating class of like 250, 300 people to go to college. So I think it's important to go back and give back. Also, I would like to help kids learn their cultures and who they are, and tell them that that's something to be proud of. You need to be proud of who you are and your culture. And lastly, just to kind of wrap things up, those are what I would be doing in the classroom, and I think that this chapter was a very important chapter. But the key thing is, no matter what you're experiencing or if you're going into another culture, just make sure that you have an open mindset and you don't have that closed mindset wherever you're going in life. And I guess I would definitely want to ask the writers of this book, if I were to ask a question, why they gave those characteristics to the dominant group rather than just to people in general. So I think everybody wants to be their own self. Everybody doesn't want to be controlled by someone else. Everybody wants to have their own say in things. So I think that's important. Anyways, that's it. Going to go watch the Stanley Cup playoffs right now. Sorry, I didn't really edit it too much, so if there's a lot of me thinking and kind of my eyes drifting off, my bad. Try to clear that up next video. All right, y'all. Deuces.